There is a war being waged inside every human soul, not with swords nor with bullets, but with thoughts, with beliefs, with the silent, unrelenting battle between what you know you can become and what the world tries to convince you that you are. The battlefield, your mind, the enemy, distraction, doubt, fear, and the invisible forces of entropy that whisper that you are too late, too small, too weak to matter. But here's the truth. If you do not take control of your own mind, someone else will. The moment you were born into this world, you were handed a weapon more powerful than any empire has ever built. Your consciousness. You were given the ability to think, to imagine, to create, to shape reality through belief and action. And yet, how many live their entire lives without ever understanding the scope of that power? How many wake up each morning and hand over the reins to circumstance, to noise, to distraction, to the opinions of others? You were not born to be ruled by your mind. You were born to rule it. Let me tell you about Thomas Edison. Not the man who invented the light bulb, though he did, but the man who failed 10,000 times before he found success. When asked how it felt to fail so many times, he said, "I didn't fail 10,000 times. I found 10,000 ways that didn't work." That's the difference between those who dominate their minds and those who are dominated by them. One sees failure as progress. The other sees it as proof. Your mind is not your enemy. It is your most powerful ally when properly trained. But left unchecked, it becomes a prison. It becomes a place where dreams go to die, where potential rots beneath layers of self-doubt, procrastination, and fear. Every time you say "I can't," every time you hesitate instead of act, every time you allow yourself to be swayed by the negativity around you, you are surrendering your sovereignty. And that is not living. That is existing. So, let us begin again. Let us start where all true transformation begins, in the quiet, sacred space between your ears. Because the only way to change your life is to first change the way you think. The only way to break free from the chains of limitation is to master your mind. Think of your mind like a garden. If you plant seeds of doubt, fear, and apathy, that is what will grow. But if you plant discipline, vision, purpose, if you water those ideas daily with action and belief, then you will cultivate something extraordinary. You will grow a life that defies expectation, a legacy that echoes long after you're gone. This is not philosophy. This is strategy. Napoleon Hill, the man who spent decades studying the greatest achievers in history, Carnegie, Ford, Edison, Rockefeller, came to one conclusion. Success is not luck. It is not privilege. It is not random chance. Success is a mindset, a system, a science, and it can be learned, practiced, and mastered by anyone willing to do the work. But here's the catch. The path is not easy. It demands everything from you. It requires you to look at yourself honestly, to confront the parts of you that resist growth, to face the fears that have been holding you back for years, maybe even decades. It asks you to stop blaming the world and start building within yourself the strength to reshape it. Because the world does not reward the average. It rewards those who refuse to accept mediocrity. Those who rise before the sun and work long after it sets. Those who see obstacles not as barriers, but as stepping stones. Those who understand that pain is temporary, but regret lasts forever. Let me ask you something. What would your life look like if you truly believed in yourself? If you walked through the world with the certainty that nothing could stop you, that no setback was permanent, no failure final, that every challenge was simply another test on the road to greatness. That is the kind of belief we're talking about. Not the wishful thinking kind. Not the motivational fluff you hear on social media. Real, unshakable belief. The kind that moves mountains. The kind that builds empires. The kind that turns ordinary people into legends. But belief alone is not enough. You must also have clarity. Clarity about who you are, about what you want, about why you want it. Without clarity, belief is just noise. Without clarity, you are wandering through life without direction, reacting instead of acting, drifting instead of driving. Clarity is the compass that guides you through the chaos. It is the lens through which you filter every decision, every opportunity, every temptation. It allows you to say no to distractions and yes to what matters most. It gives you the courage to walk away from comfort zones and step into the unknown. And once you have clarity, you need vision. Vision is not just dreaming. Vision is seeing the future so clearly that it becomes inevitable. It is the mental blueprint of the life you are determined to create. It is the fuel that keeps you moving forward when the road gets dark. Vision is what separates those who talk about success from those who achieve it. Think of Walt Disney. In 1953, he mortgaged his house to fund Disneyland. He had already been fired from a newspaper job because they said he lacked creativity. He had been rejected countless times, but he saw something the rest of the world couldn't. He saw a place where imagination became reality, and he refused to let anything stand in the way. That's the power of vision. It doesn't care about odds. It doesn't listen to critics. It doesn't wait for permission. It acts. But vision without purpose is still incomplete. Purpose is the heartbeat of your journey. It is the reason behind the struggle. The fire that keeps you going when everything else fades. Purpose is what transforms ambition into meaning. It is the answer to the question, why am I doing this? Without purpose, success is hollow. Achievement rings empty. You may reach the top of the mountain, only to realize you are climbing the wrong peak. Find your purpose. Fight for it. Protect it. Because when you know why you're doing something, you'll find a way to make it happen no matter what. And when you have purpose, you unlock the next essential ingredient, discipline. Discipline is not punishment. It is freedom. It is the ability to choose what matters most, even when it's hard, even when you don't feel like it. Discipline is showing up when others quit. It is consistency in action. It is the daily grind that builds extraordinary results. Thomas Jefferson once said, "I'm a great believer in luck, and I find the harder I work, the more I have of it." That's discipline in its purest form. It's not waiting for inspiration. It's creating it. It's not chasing motivation. It's building momentum. Discipline is the bridge between intention and outcome. But discipline means nothing without action. Action is the currency of transformation. It is the point where thought meets reality. Ideas without execution are fantasies. Dreams without movement are illusions. You can plan all day, study all night, visualize endlessly, but until you move, nothing changes. Henry Ford once said, "Whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right." Action proves it. Every great achievement in history started with a single step, a decision, a moment when someone chose to move forward despite uncertainty, despite fear, despite doubt. That's the moment everything changes, because action breeds confidence. Confidence breeds momentum. Momentum breeds success. And once you start taking consistent, purpose-driven action, something incredible happens. Gratitude begins to flow. Gratitude is not just saying thank you. It is recognizing the value in your journey. It is appreciating both the struggles and the victories. Gratitude is the emotional anchor that keeps you grounded in the midst of chaos. When you practice gratitude daily, you shift your focus from what you lack to what you have, from scarcity to abundance, from complaint to contribution. Gratitude rewires your brain to see opportunities instead of obstacles. It softens resistance. It opens doors. It attracts people, resources, and circumstances that align with your energy. But gratitude is not passive. It must be cultivated. It must be practiced. Like a muscle, it grows stronger with use. So write it down. Say it out loud. Live it. Because when you operate from a place of gratitude, you are no longer ruled by fear. You are ruled by faith. Yet even with gratitude, the journey is not without difficulty. Because life is unpredictable. No matter how disciplined, how focused, how grateful you are, challenges will come. Setbacks will arise. Failure will knock on your door. And when it does, you must be ready. Resilience is the art of bouncing back, of rising after falling, of continuing when quitting feels easier. Resilience is not about avoiding pain. It's about embracing it as part of the process. Winston Churchill once stood before a nation on the brink of collapse and said, "Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts." That is resilience. That is the warrior spirit. That is the mindset of those who dominate their minds. But resilience alone is not enough. You must also learn. Learning is the foundation of evolution. It is the process of turning experience into wisdom, of refining mistakes into mastery. Learning is humility in motion. It is the willingness to admit you don't know everything and to keep growing anyway. Edison never stopped learning. Neither did Carnegie. Neither did Lincoln. They failed. They studied. They adapted. They improved. And then they tried again. Because learning is not a destination. It is a lifestyle. And in a world that changes faster than ever before, adaptability is survival. Adaptability is the ability to pivot when necessary, to shift strategies without losing sight of the goal, to remain flexible in the face of uncertainty. Adaptability is intelligence in motion. You can either continue to let your mind run wild, feeding off fear, doubt, and distraction, or you can take control. You can train your mind like an elite athlete trains their body. You can build mental strength, emotional endurance, and spiritual clarity. You can decide that today is the day you stop playing small. That today is the day you reclaim your power. That today is the day you begin to dominate your mind, or be dominated by it, because there is no middle ground. Either you shape your destiny, or you let the world shape it for you. Either you become the architect of your future, or you inherit the ruins of someone else's. Either you rise or you fall. So rise, rise with purpose. Rise with discipline. Rise with belief. Rise with action. Rise with gratitude. Rise with resilience. Rise with adaptability. Rise with hunger. Rise with fire. Because the world needs people who refuse to settle, who dare to dream bigger, work harder, and push further, who understand that the mind is not a cage, it is a canvas, and you were born to paint something unforgettable. So pick up the brush. Start now. There is a moment just before the sun breaks the horizon, when the world holds its breath. The night has not yet fully surrendered, and the day has not yet begun. It is in this stillness that the most powerful decisions are made. Not with fanfare, not with applause, but in the quiet certainty of someone who knows they are about to change everything. This is your moment. Not tomorrow. Not after you've figured it all out. Not after you've waited for the perfect conditions. This is it, right now. The point where hesitation meets resolve. Where fear collides with courage, where the past ends and the future begins. Because domination of the mind does not wait for permission. It seizes control. You were not born into this world to drift through life like a leaf caught in the wind. You were not placed here to chase comfort at the expense of greatness. You were not given this one wild and precious life so you could live it according to someone else's blueprint. You were built to build, to create, to conquer, to rise, and yet So many spend their days chasing distractions instead of destiny. They fill their minds with noise, social media, gossip, endless scrolling, shallow conversations, anything to avoid the uncomfortable truth that they have not taken full responsibility for their own lives. That truth is not a punishment. It is a gift. Because once you accept that no one else is coming to rescue you, that no amount of waiting will bring the perfect time, the perfect plan, the perfect circumstances, something inside you shifts. You stop looking for shortcuts and start building foundations. You stop making excuses and start taking ownership. You stop blaming and start becoming. And that shift, that is the beginning of mind domination. Let me tell you about Abraham Lincoln, a man born into poverty, raised in a log cabin with dirt floors, barely any formal education, failed business ventures, rejected for political office multiple times, suffered deep personal loss, endured ridicule, mockery, public humiliation. But he did not break. He rebuilt himself over and over again. He studied law by candlelight. He trained his mind to think deeply, to speak clearly, to lead with conviction. And eventually, he rose to become the President of the United States. During its most divided hour, Lincoln didn't dominate his mind because he had an easy life. He dominated it because of the hardships he faced, because he understood that adversity was not a setback, it was a setup. Every failure sharpened him, every rejection refined him, every challenge strengthened him. And so it must be with you. You cannot choose the circumstances you're handed, but you can choose what you make of them. You cannot control everything that happens to you, but you can always control how you respond. That is the battlefield. That is where true power lies. Your thoughts shape your emotions. Your emotions drive your actions. Your actions determine your outcomes. So if you want different results, you must first master your thinking. Think of your mind as a fortress. If you leave the gates open, unguarded, undisciplined, then negativity, doubt, distraction, and fear will flood in. They will take root. They will grow. And soon you won't recognize yourself anymore. But if you fortify your mind, if you train it, discipline it, protect it, then you become untouchable, unshakable, unstoppable. That is the difference between those who are dominated by their minds and those who dominate them. You see, the human mind is not designed for comfort. It is designed for conquest, for growth, for evolution. But too many settle for survival instead of striving for significance. They wake up each morning and go through the motions. They let their environment dictate their energy. They allow setbacks to define them. They mistake temporary obstacles for permanent failures. But that is not you, because you are reading these words right now. And that means something inside you is ready to awaken. So listen closely. If you do not control your thoughts, someone else will. The media will. Society will. The people around you will. They will tell you what to believe, what to buy, what to wear, what to fear, what to desire. But you are not meant to follow. You are meant to lead. And leadership begins within. It starts with belief, not in some vague, wishful way, but in a raw, unshakable, relentless kind of knowing. The kind of belief that doesn't need validation, that doesn't seek approval, that doesn't care about odds. Belief is the engine of creation. Without it, nothing moves. Without it, dreams stay buried. Without it, potential remains locked away. So ask yourself, what do you truly believe about yourself? Do you believe you are capable of more than you've achieved so far? Do you believe you have something valuable to offer the world? Do you believe you can overcome whatever stands in your way? If the answer is yes, then act like it. Because belief without action is empty. Faith without movement is fantasy. Conviction without execution is illusion. You must move. You must act. You must build. even when you're afraid, especially when you're afraid, because courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is moving forward despite it. And every time you take action, even a small one, you strengthen your mind. You prove to yourself that you are capable, that you are in control, that you are not at the mercy of circumstance. That is how you begin to dominate your mind. You don't wait for motivation. You create momentum. Don't wait for inspiration. You generate it. You don't wait for the perfect plan. You start with what you have, because the path to mastery is not paved with perfection. It is paved with persistence. Let me tell you about Henry Ford in 1899. He founded the Detroit Automobile Company and failed. Then he tried again with the Henry Ford Company and failed again. By the time he launched Ford Motor Company, he had already burned through millions of dollars, lost investor confidence, and been publicly ridiculed. But he kept going. He believed in a vision of mass-produced automobiles, something no one thought possible. He believed in innovation, efficiency, and accessibility. And because he refused to quit, he changed the world. That is the power of belief combined with action. That is what happens when you stop letting your mind hold. You back and start using it as your greatest weapon. So ask yourself, what is the thing you know you should be doing but haven't started? What is the goal that keeps whispering to you in the quiet moments, but you keep pushing aside? What is the version of yourself you know you can become, but haven't committed to becoming? Whatever it is, start there, because domination of the mind is not about being perfect. It's about being consistent. It's about showing up every single day and choosing progress over paralysis. It's about refusing to give in to the voice that says later, or maybe, or not today. Because later becomes never, maybe becomes no, and not today becomes never dot. So why not today? Why not now? Why not you? Because the world needs warriors, leaders, builders, people who refuse to be ruled by their fears, their doubts, their limitations. People who understand that the only thing standing between them and their highest potential is the willingness to take the first step. And once you take that step, another follows, then another, until one day you look back and realize you've crossed the threshold, that you are no longer the same person who hesitated, who doubted, who feared, that you are someone new, someone stronger, someone who has learned to dominate their mind, and therefore their destiny. And that is the most powerful transformation of all, because once you have mastered your own mind, nothing can stop you. No obstacle is too great. No failure is final. No dream is too big. You are free. Free from the prison of self dashed out. By free from the chains of procrastination. By free from the weight of regret. You are alive in a way you never were before, because you have chosen to take ownership of the one thing that determines everything else, your mind. And now, with that power firmly in your hands, you are ready for what comes next. The journey continues, but now you are leading it, you are shaping it, you are becoming it, and the world had better get ready, because the person you are becoming, they don't just survive, they thrive. They don't just dream, they build. They don't just hope, they dominate. So, breathe deep, stand tall, look forward, because the next chapter of your life is about to begin. And this time, you are writing it on your terms, not with your mind fully under your control, and your destiny fully within reach. Now, go! You were not born to be average. You were not placed on this earth to blend in, to follow the crowd, to live a life of quiet desperation while pretending everything is fine. No, you were built for more, for greatness, for significance. But greatness doesn't come from luck, nor does it fall into your lap like some divine handout. Greatness is forged in the fire of discipline, belief, and relentless action. And that fire starts within. Let me tell you about Walt Disney. Not the man who created Mickey Mouse, though he did, but the man who was fired from his first job at a newspaper because his editor said he lacked creativity. The man who went bankrupt multiple times before building an empire. The man who pitched Disneyland to investors and was laughed out of every room until he mortgaged his own home to make it happen. Disney didn't become a legend because he had perfect conditions. He became a legend because he refused to let failure define him. He didn't just believe in his vision, he lived inside it so completely that he made others see it too. And once they saw it, they couldn't look away. That's what happens when you dominate your mind. You stop seeing obstacles as roadblocks and start seeing them as proof that you're on the right path. You stop waiting for permission and start creating your own reality. You stop looking outside yourself for validation and start building unshakable self-belief from within. Because belief is not something you find. It's something you build every day through action, through repetition, through consistency. It begins with small victories, waking up early, sticking to a routine, making hard choices even when you don't feel like it. These moments may seem insignificant, but they are the foundation upon which extraordinary lives are built. Consider Andrew Carnegie, a man who arrived in America as a poor immigrant, worked long hours in factories, taught himself through books, borrowed from a local library, and eventually built one of the largest steel empires in history. He didn't have a privileged background. He didn't have connections. What he had was clarity, vision, and the unrelenting drive to shape his own destiny. Carnegie once said, "The man who acquires the ability to take full possession of his own mind may take possession of anything else to which he is justly entitled." Think about that. Your mind is the gateway to everything else. Your thoughts determine your emotions. Your emotions fuel your actions. Your actions create your habits. Your habits define your character. And your character determines your fate. So if you want to change your life, truly change it, you must begin here. Inside, where no one else can see, where no one else can interfere, where no one else can stop you. This is where domination begins. Not in grand declarations, not in motivational speeches, not in fleeting bursts of inspiration, but in the quiet, unwavering decision to take control of your mind. And never give it back. Because once you understand that your mind is the battlefield, you realize that every thought matters. Every word you speak to yourself shapes your reality. Every moment of hesitation weakens your resolve. Every act of discipline strengthens your will. And the difference between those who win and those who merely survive, it comes down to this. Who owns their mind? Is it you? Or is it fear? Is it distraction? Is it doubt? Is it the noise of the world trying to drown out your voice? If you do not claim ownership of your mind, someone else will. Society will. Culture will. Media will. The people around you will. They will tell you what to think, how to feel, what to buy, what to wear, what to fear, what to desire. But you are not meant to follow. You are meant to lead, and leadership begins within. So ask yourself, what thoughts occupy your mind when you wake up in the morning? Are they thoughts of possibility, of progress, of purpose? Or are they thoughts of worry, of regret, of limitation? Because whatever you feed grows. If you fill your mind with negativity, that's what will flourish. If you surround yourself with distractions, that's what will consume you. If you allow doubt to take root, it will spread like wildfire. But if you plant discipline, clarity, belief, if you water them daily with action and intention, then something extraordinary happens. You begin to change.